All right, welcome to the 5 a.m. grind. Harris, what's up, man?
Not much, man. What's up with you?
It's good. It's good. How's business? How's the real estate market looking?
Real estate market is turning around.
Yeah?
In terms of volume, I think the prices are already a little bit high. I think that for June, market did soften up. I don't know about July.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't read anything yet. I should be reading up on that. But I just have a feeling that there's just more activity. I see more business going through the firm just because as the economy opened up, more people are doing open houses and all that stuff. So,
Yeah.
Because prior to that, nobody, you couldn't do open houses. So everybody was doing virtual tours. And I don't know if everybody's willing to buy a house off of that.
Off of a virtual tour, yeah.
But now it's like, and then once it opened up, it takes some time, to get it going. And so, it's turning around.
Nice. So, funny enough, that was what our topic is going to be for today. It's just reopening the economy. Because we've talked about COVID-19. We've talked about remote work. So I thought, why not just talk about reopening the economy and this entire theme? Because hopefully we'll reopen once and never have to do this again. So the questions I wanted to go over today are the following. Number one, what are some of the implications of reopening the economy? Number two, what are your thoughts on a fourth wave and another lockdown, if we have one? Number three, which behaviors learned in COVID do you think will stay? We've talked about remote work, but wanted to talk about other behaviors here. And number four, what were some of your biggest takeaways from the lockdown? All right, so question number one, biggest implications of reopening the economy. Obviously, number one, restaurants are back in business, which is really nice to see because I would think that restaurants were really the hardest hit during the lockdowns. What else is reopening? Business travel is back on, concerts and big events. What do you think about all this stuff? So business travel, do you think we'll go back to the way it was in 2019?
No. I mean, I do think that there's certain things, like I guess I'm a bit confused in how it's going to look because on the one hand, I definitely feel like there's a definite value add for an office. Right?
Okay.
You can't do everything from home. When you're working remotely, it's good after you've spent time at the office and you know everyone and you're comfortable. But when you get like new employees in and they got to know somebody, and they're like just kind of at the office or at home alone, they're not going to build those relationships. They're not going to learn anything. And business travel is a lot like that. You're traveling to meet people, right? You could I always had a conversation over the phone, right? But for especially for sales and stuff like that, that person to person is a whole different feel.
Did you used to travel a lot for your business before the pandemic started? Because I'm curious to know if you did some of that travel to visit clients, etc. Do you think some of those drives or flights or whatever would turn into now just a Zoom call?
Oh, yeah, I traveled a lot, and all of them have turned into Zoom calls.
Oh, they have? Okay.
Yep.
That's quite interesting. Because the other implication out of all of this business travel as well is, I don't know about your firm, but maybe you were very local based, like in Ontario. Could you now have like a national presence across the country?
Definitely you could have a national presence. The other thing is it really depends on the nature of the business. So in our kind of, especially in the real estate side, your meetings are not that long. And the relationship building part isn't as long, because you're doing you're buying a house. The price point isn't as high.
Yeah.
But so when I think of business travel, I'm looking at things that the price points are a little higher, right? So the real estate side, where the majority of my meetings were, was B2C. I'm talking maybe B2B, where your price points for purchase or whatever it is a little bit higher. You're going to want to go see those people.
Yeah.
Right? So if I have, even now, any business clients, I'm going to go see them.
Interesting. I was reading an article actually in the New York Times about, I think it was Jamie Dimon, was he the head of Morgan Stanley or JP Morgan? I forget which one.
One of the banks.
One of the banks. So he was saying that actually what they've seen is that they've lost some deals to rival investment banks simply because when it came to meet a certain client, like JP Morgan or whoever it was, decided to do it virtually, but another bank actually flew out to meet the clients. So the people that actually got the mandate were the people that made the effort,
Yeah.
flew over,
Yeah.
met the client in person,
Yeah.
etc.
So what my thinking is
Yeah.
there's no way you can do investment banking over
Zoom.
Zoom. No. Especially the initial meeting. Maybe
Yeah.
you don't have to fly out as much. Okay. You don't have to fly out 5 times. You got to fly out once.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Because, for example, in the work that we differentiate between Zoom calls or whatever, like virtual calls versus in person. The difference is the price points. Sometimes, like for example, real estate transactions has a downward pressure. It's semi-commoditized, and people are trying to get their work done effectively as cheaply as possible, right?
Yeah.
Or without, and by cheap I mean they don't want to be troubled. So if they could do it from their house, right? Whether they spend $50, $100 more or less, it doesn't really matter because that price point isn't that high. Now, if you're looking at a business, right, and then sorry, one other thing is when we're speaking to them over the Zoom call or whatever, our meetings have shortened up so much it's not even funny. If somebody came into our office, that meeting could easily last on average 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Right, 30 to 45 minutes. Some of them are an hour and a half. Right. Now, our average meeting is, I would say, around 15 minutes.
15.
1-5.
Holy cow.
Because when people came
Massive reduction.
when people came in, they were like, hey, like they'll talk about themselves, their lives, whatever it is, right? And then you built a relationship. At this point, like with our meetings, nobody's building a relationship, to be honest. There's a few small talk kind of stuff. But majority of it is, here's the work. And we have to sign these documents and kind of explain whatever needs to be explained, and you move forward. So there is no small talk. And I feel for the bigger deals, for business deals, you're building a relationship. There has to be some kind of small talk so that the other person can feel some kind of, I mean, even B2C with higher price tags, there needs to be some kind of small talk to like feel like they have a relationship with you. Because doing investment banking, man, if you're raising funds, it's not a small thing.
Yeah.
You need to have that kind of confidence that you're in good hands.
Now, I like what you said, though. Like maybe the first meeting is in person because that's like a kickoff. You're getting to know one another. But maybe there are fewer, the subsequent meetings will be done through Zoom or et cetera, right? Because sometimes if I just need a small detail, I don't need to fly over. I'll just do it over Zoom or something like that. Interesting implications. Do you think, like for you, does client loyalty suffer as a result if you move everything online and through Zoom? Because that relationship sometimes makes it a bit more sticky when it's in person.
So I would say for us, it really depends on the type of business, right? Our like consumer clients, I guess, if that's the right way to say it. Like, how often do you go to a law firm? When you're buying a house every 10 years. Yeah. Right? 7 to 10 years, you're buying or selling a home. Maybe in the GTA, it's every other day, but those are very few people who are flipping houses every other day. Those I would consider that more of a business, which I'll get to in a second. Buying a house, when you are writing a will, how many times do you do that in a lifetime, right? Maybe once, and then you might edit it, amend it like once or twice. That's it, so 3 times. And then what do you have? If you're going through a divorce, you might see a divorce attorney. You know what I mean? Yes. There's very few, like most people aren't really seeing lawyers every day. And so from the onset, they're not that loyal to begin with because they're just meeting these people once every 5 years, 10 years for whatever issue. So for that, there's other ways to kind of get that loyalty in, and that's just making sure that your content is good. But for businesses, businesses have day-to-day issues. Our business clients, right, we're speaking to them often because we know what's going on with their business. We know, okay, they'll be like, would this issues come up? I need this to happen, and we're constantly talking to them. And forget about just like going to them and speaking to them because there's an engagement. We will speak to them. We will go and see them just on an ongoing basis to make sure everything's okay. You build relationships with the businesses.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. I guess moving on from this topic, talking about just reopening in general for the economy.
Yeah.
now we do have like concerts and big events happening too, stuff like this, and retraining your behavior. And the reason why I sort of put this down to talk about as well is, I don't know, are you comfortable around big crowds? Or is that something you'll have to like retrain yourself?
I'm not. I mean, for me, it was the malls opened up.
Yeah.
And I went to one of the malls, Vaughan Mills.
Okay.
Right. For those of you who don't know, Vaughan is like a city or region above Toronto.
Correct. Yeah, north of Toronto.
Yeah, north of Toronto. So there's a mall there. It's a pretty decent sized mall. Now going in, they're like mask. They got security guards outside or whatever, making sure everybody's wearing masks, and it's fine. I'll wear my mask. But as soon as you go in, it's so crowded that everybody's just next to one another. I'm like, this is kind of awkward. know?
It is weird.
Yeah, it's kind of like, for me, it's like, okay, well, at least like take some like, if not like whatever it is, 4-6 feet apart, 2 meters, put some effort into like keeping some distance.
Some
people
distance.
People don't care anymore.
It's funny how some people just forget very quickly, and it's not like we're out of the woods just yet. We still have this Delta variant,
and it's increasing every day.
Yeah,
it's not like it's. It may not be at the same rate.
Yeah.
But it's still like something that's increasing.
I mean, we're fortunate compared to our neighbors to the south. I mean, it seems like the U.S. is really struggling with this fourth wave or the Delta variant.
A few days ago, New York mandated shots for like, what is it, restaurants?
Yeah, if you want to go to a restaurant, an event or something, you need proof of vaccination or something like that. Yeah, it's interesting.
Because the cases are going up and they want to make sure that everybody's getting vaccinated. This is the only way. They can't force you to take it, but they can't exclude you if you're going to put other people at risk.
It is interesting. So I guess going to the next question then, what are your thoughts on like, could there be a potential fourth wave? What have you heard? What have you read? And another lockdown. Do you think that's possible, or do we maybe have a fourth wave and we just learn to live with it this time?
Yeah, I think we're going to have a fourth wave and we're going to have to learn to live with it.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, because the thing is most diseases that we've had, and people compare vaccines to like polio vaccines and all that, but polio was around for some time, and then we got a cure, right? Because that's just like you can't expedite like solving any disease. Some of them can't be solved. Cancer still can't be solved, right?
Yeah.
Like we can treat it and you can prevent it, and but you can't solve it. You know what I mean? Cancer, like when you're getting chemo, it's like you're killing your entire body and trying to hope the cancer dies before the rest of you does, right? Mm-hmm. So there's certain diseases out there, and this is part of the human condition, right? That are kind of just there. We're trying to find cures, and hopefully we do, but it doesn't happen in a span of 6 months, and then everybody starts freaking getting, injected with a drug. Now I hope this thing works, right? And the reason why I was kind of objecting the vaccine was not because I'm an anti-vaccine kind of person. If it works, I'm all about it. But it was just that it was so rushed that for me, I'm like, did they go through the right trials and all that stuff?
Right.
Which is a different issue.
So initially you had reservations, but now you're vaccinated, obviously.
I'm vaccinated. Yeah. I'm vaccinated. But my initial reservations was, and to this day, it's like... Did you go through the trials? I mean, the RNA stuff is very experimental to begin with.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Now, at the end of the day, I don't think it's practical for an entire province to shut down, especially Ontario. I think we're one of the strictest in the world, I swear. And then just give everybody money so we hold off until like we can open. Because that's not how the world works. That's not how nature works. Animals don't just start going, okay, I'm going to hibernate, and until like this like storm's going to pass. Right? Sometimes you could do it, but I don't think this is one of those storms.
I agree. Because when COVID first started in March 2020, people were really afraid. You remember, people were really listening to the instructions about staying at home, working from home, not being in the streets, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. People took it very seriously. But over time, as we've come to know, we're not going to be able to get the case counts to zero. We're probably not going to be able to kill this completely. We're going to have to learn to live with it. And then maybe, I don't know, eventually we'll have vaccines, medication, whatever, that'll, try and bring this rate of infection to a much more, like a lower level, such that it's like the flu or something. Yeah. But yeah, we're not going to be able to get to zero. That's not going to be possible. So
my question to you is, God forbid there's another wave right?
Okay.
And cases are, let's say, as high as they were. Well, where were they hitting the highest? Like January, February, right? They got pretty high. Would you lock down the economy or you keep it open?
Oh, it's a tough question. I feel like politicians have had this exact same question to deal with for the next little while. And whatever they did, they pissed off somebody.
Yeah,
Because if you're not gonna, you're not. There's no way to win. There's no way to win here.
Yep.
If you lock down the economy, you're killing businesses. If you don't lock down the economy, people are dying.
Yeah.
Like it's like the worst position to be in. I don't know. For me, it would depend on context and stuff like that. If the case count reaches that level, then maybe a modified lockdown of sorts might be warranted. To be able to control
what would be a
this.
modified?
Like, you know how we had the different stages. We had stage 2 where you could, I don't know, grocery stores were open or something like that. Some sort of a modified.
So then you'd be pro lockdown.
Yeah. Like, I don't know if the death rate and the hospitals can't handle the rate of infections.
Yeah.
Like we have a problem.
Yeah. I mean, the death rate, though, the thing is the lockdowns do increase the death rate in a different way that we don't see, right? Like when people can't work, right? When they're stressed, divorces have gone up, right?
Yeah.
So all of that creates stress and it creates death, but it's classified in a different way.
Yeah.
It's not like nobody's going to say death due to lockdown. Right?
Yeah.
It's going to be death due to like whatever, suicide or whatever it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there is, I feel like deaths, but it's just classified a different way. So I would say, I don't know, I wouldn't lock down, man.
You wouldn't
I
lock
wouldn't
down.
lock
You'd
down.
leave it. Yeah. Well, trust the vaccine, I guess.
Yeah.
We can see. All right. So I thought the third question that I wanted to cover today was, which behaviors learned in COVID do you think will stay? We talked about remote work already. We sort of touched on it in the first question as well. But I'm thinking about just other behaviors learned in COVID. I'll tell you one thing I've noticed about my family. We never used Instacart. We never gave a damn about that thing. But we've used it since the pandemic started, and we're still kind of using it, weirdly, because I guess my parents and my family and even myself not really comfortable going to a grocery store, and you're like, oh, this is just easier.
Yeah.
So people are still ordering groceries online. I don't know. What do you think about some of this other stuff? Like, have you used anything like telehealth with your dentist or your doctor?
Yeah.
That seems to be a space that's heating up.
Yeah. I mean, I thought telehealth was very good. So my newborn got sick.
Right. Okay.
And we could not go to the hospital.
Yeah.
Or I mean, could not, but it was like late and there's whatever, trying to find appointments with the pediatrician and just was whatever. Telehealth had a thing where you could call in. The doctor was very nice.
Yeah.
She helped us out, and at the end, she figured out what was wrong.
Holy cow.
For us,
Okay.
it was a big deal because it was getting like he just had some kind of, I guess a rash or something. But for new parents, like, oh my God, what's happening to my kid, right? And it was just like it was getting worse. It wasn't getting better. But the doctor knew right away what was going on, and she helped us out a lot. So that helped us out. Like they booked an appointment. 3 hours we got to talk to her, and it was really helpful.
Yeah.
So I would 100%. I think that's something that I did not think would be an option before, because I did not think calling in. But I guess it's the same thing with lawyers or accountants or anybody else, right? But now I'm like, hey, you know what? Why not?
Yeah. I had the same thing when the pandemic started as well, just for a consultation for Invisalign, so like adult braces or whatever. And the dentist, I had to hold up my camera to my mouth, like my FaceTime camera. But he was able to take a look at me and give me some sort of a diagnosis and tell me how much the procedure would cost. So it's not bad. I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
It's very, 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 very helpful. Very helpful. So that's one trend that might stay.
Yeah.
Any other thing for you? We talked about Zoom calls. We talked about business travel. Any other kind of behaviors? I'm just thinking about working from home, commuting. I know we talked about remote work, but
I can't work from home, man. There's no way I can work from home.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Longer term, you couldn't do it.
I could not do it because there's just too many distractions, man. And
well, I guess you do have a baby now,
so but I mean, even before kids, it's like, your parents or anybody else in the house.
Yes.
It could be a spouse, it could be siblings, it could be whoever else. Right?
Yes.
It becomes like a bit of a, it's kind of like, for me, for example, going to the gym, and it's not like I go all the time,
Yeah.
but working out from home versus the gym, I don't have the discipline to work from home. I have equipment at home, but I still go to the gym to work out.
To work out.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it's just a different mindset.
You're
right?
there to do that.
You're there to do that, and
Yeah.
then there's like everything has a station at the gym.
Yeah.
Right. It's
Yeah.
not like if you're working out at home, it's like one machine that's doing 5 different things, and you're trying to freaking reinvent it as you try to do another muscle group. And you're like, yo, I don't want to use my mind on here.
Yeah.
I want to just do the workout and then and move on. Right.
Right.
Same thing with work. I don't want my mind on doing different tasks, because at work I got stations. Right. I'm like, okay, here I'm doing this, and there's like whatever areas to do whatever work at the office. At home, you don't have that, right? So everything's just piling up on one desk.
Yeah.
So then it's like, to organize all of that, I just can't. I don't want to be thinking about like stuff that I don't have to be thinking about.
Yeah, no, interesting stuff.
What about
Interesting
you?
stuff.
Working from home.
Working from home, I think I could do work from home. I think I could do that. The only thing about this reopening thing, it's quite interesting. You remember when we talked about remote work, we said that, we had a debate about whether or not it'll stay or it'll go. I think it's interesting that it seems like a lot more companies are now being forced into offering this to their employees because employees are asking for it. So a lot of companies are like, we'll have hybrid 3 days a week, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. I personally, longer term, I question whether or not that will actually stay, because I think eventually, funny enough, just like the example you had about the mall, human behavior is interesting. It always goes back to the way it was before.
Yeah.
I think eventually people will be like, 3 days from home, but actually I'd prefer being in the office, and then all of a sudden it'll just become 5 days at the office. I think you're gonna see companies that are naturally remote first or workplace first. You're gonna see this bifurcation eventually, and people are gonna have to make a decision. I work for this or I work for that. This is what I want, et cetera, et cetera. It'll be interesting. One of the other, the whole thing about commuting, I think is, to me, the revelation during COVID was it's a complete waste of time.
Yeah, it is.
I'd rather not do that if I could avoid it. So yeah, working from home for me it's a positive. I do enjoy it. I like it. It's hard to concentrate, no doubt. But I think if you set aside a space in your home and have a routine, you can get yourself to do it.
If you're disciplined, and you're a disciplined guy,
Yeah,
you're more disciplined than I am.
The other behavior I thought I hope would stay in COVID as well, and I was watching a documentary about this, was just this reduction in human activity, pollution, driving, etc., had a really positive effect on the climate and the environment as well.
I know that I've bought less stuff, and I still am in that habit.
You've bought less crap.
Yeah.
Same here.
How much more stuff do you need? You really don't need that much.
Yeah, you're
you realize you have everything. What
First
do
of
you
all,
really need?
you don't need pants,
You don't need
shorts. If you're gonna do everything over Zoom, you just need a nice T-shirt.
That's true.
I am wearing pants right now, FYI, for the camera. But you don't need designer jeans as much. Maybe you don't need to spend that much money.
Yeah. It's become more, what is it, utilitarian?
Yes. The other thing is, how if you worked at a workplace, like in the winters, especially for us living on the East Coast, right? You wore sweaters in the winter, T-shirts in the summer. I feel like if you work from home, you could just wear a T-shirt all year round. As long as you have air, you have your heater during the winter, you have air conditioning in the summer. You could literally wear T-shirts and pants the entire year.
Yeah,
and you'd be fine.
I think now all I focus in on was before, I would have an extra set of clothes at the office in case somebody walked in and maybe for whatever reason, I spilled something, whatever. It's just more of a backup, right?
Yeah.
Now I just have a polo. That's it, right? Because if there is anything that goes down, it's probably going to be on Zoom.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have a clean shirt. That's it. So I think the other day, I had an surprise meeting, but I was at the gym, so I came back, put on the polo, and I was in gym shorts and everything underneath, but on top it was all business.
That is fun. Well, that's another trend as well, because a lot of people are now saying, I was reading an article in the Globe saying the suit is now dead, because a lot more people are going casual. Even some of the formal wear is more that type of sports jacket, that type of very comfortable type of wear. What do you think about that? I think that's a pretty good trend. I thought suits were a little I don't know. I think overkill as well sometimes.
Yeah, but I would say back to what you were saying before, everybody's going to go casual. Then they'll be like, oh, no, a suit looks nice, right? And they're going to go back to the suit.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
I just think that before it was a lot of workplaces were very strict with what they wore.
Yeah.
Now it's like
Yeah.
whether you're casual or you're more business formal, right? Just you have to dress sharp. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the point, right? Not be a slob.
I don't know. I want to go the Bobby Axelrod approach.
yeah.
If any of you guys are fans of Billions, right? Bobby Axelrod, the hedge fund manager in the show. Yeah, it's always like he wears whatever the hell he wants. It's hoodies, t-shirts, whatever the hell he wants.
But he dresses sharp, man. It's not like those hoodies are, he's
They're
well
not bum
dressed.
hoodies. Yeah.
He's well dressed.
Correct.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right, so last questions. Biggest takeaways. Like, I hope we're done with lockdowns, that we don't have a fourth one. What were some of your biggest takeaways just from the lockdowns? I mean, we talked about some lessons, etc. But what was one thing reflecting back that maybe led you to rethink about things, maybe look at things from a different perspective? What are some of those big takeaways from the lockdowns?
I guess from a personal sense, like just society is vulnerable. How vulnerable society is, and not to be, taking everything that we have for granted.
Yeah.
I think that's more important in the West because our lives revolve around just the amount of consumption we do and how everything's organized around that. That's one thing. And the other thing was, from a business sense, just making sure that I'm not tied to one physical location with my business, and making sure that if anything happens, I can, go across the country or the world if I have to conduct business. And they were ready. What about you?
Yeah, my biggest takeaway from the lockdown, maybe I have a couple. Number one was it's really important to sometimes stop and just relax and think about things. I think the pandemic really forced everybody to take stock of what was happening in their career, in their life, etc., to be able to just stop and slow down and think about things. Because the thing about the routine in 2019 and before that, it was very regimented. It's like you were a hamster on a hamster wheel, right? You just kept doing the same thing over and over again, right? Without ever stopping and taking some time to really think about what you were doing deeply. Yeah. I felt like, you had free time, you had downtime, but this was like a period in your life where you just had a consistent amount of downtime, in a sense, and you were made to force to think about things without being very reactionary or having a very regimented schedule. I think that's quite helpful. I might try and implement that going forward in my life because I think it's quite important. And the other thing was, it made you rethink about the way to do things. Because, who would have thought that Zoom would be a thing that you could achieve? You could be just as productive working from home, doing stuff through video conference, etc., etc. I would have never thought. So sometimes a shock like this to the system is what you need to be able to sort of shift your perspective and look at things a bit differently.
Yep.
I think that was very, very, very helpful. A really big takeaway and lesson for me.
Sometimes you need that to snap out of
a shock to the system. Yeah. Like it's the whole podcast we were talking about before. The whole thing about self-imposed versus change that actually shocks you, that comes from the outside.
That's good.
Yeah, cool. Any other takeaways? Just reopening the economy? Anything like that? Still think inflation's gonna run hot?
Inflation is gonna run high. Yes, definitely.
So it looks like they're gonna raise rates, huh?
Yeah.
At some
I don't know if they can raise rates. I think they're gonna talk about raising rates because that is a indicator to many that the economy is doing better. But whether they can afford to raise rates is a different story.
Different story. Yes. Yeah. Remains to be seen. We'll see. Yeah. All right, guys. We'll see you guys on the next podcast. Hope you enjoyed this episode.
All right. Take care, guys.
Take care.